Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Our Life Beginnings and Always. We're going to be getting into the moments today. Well, I hope, it depends how long they are. I want to get through all 5, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, crew, so let's get started with shopping. Come back before it gets dark, all right, sport? All right. The familiar voice drifted across the street and drew your attention away from the snail you'd been watching inch slowly across the pavement. Riveting, absolutely riveting. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face, from where the breeze was blowing it over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. Money. It reminded you when you'd first met Mr. Holden. Although he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. Probably not, you're right. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow. Or maybe you made a noise because a second later, his eyes were on you. He waved you over with a smile. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird for getting caught. You've got to learn how to be more sneaky. You brushed your hands together to free them of sand, then jogged over to join the two, smiling at Cove first, then his dad. Hey! Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to today, Mandy? Nothing. I was literally watching a snail move across pavement, so yeah, that's probably correct. You towed the pavement in front of you. Would be nice to tell them about the snail you found, but you didn't know if they liked snails. After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holden's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had into a tiny rectangle. Sounds fun. It does? You weren't sure about that. You know, Cove was just about to hit the stores by the beach. Why don't you go with him? You gave a ready nod, turning to squint in the direction of the stores like you could see the goods they had to offer all the way from where you stood. Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't mind. Great, I'm sure you guys will have loads of fun. Mr. Holden reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather wallet filled with money. You found it odd since your mom's only ever seemed to have cards in theirs. Here. He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Get something for your friend too. Sure. That's my boy. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightening back up, the bill in his hand still held out towards the green-haired boy. Take care. Cove accepted the bill after a second and slipped it into his pocket. Then, with one last nod to his dad, he turned and started walking. You followed after him, intrigued at the possibilities this outing might bring. Cove strayed toward the gentle tide creeping up the sand, and you fell into place beside him. It was a nice day. The sun was shining, and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. You took in a deep breath, enjoying the scent of salt and ocean air. When you looked at Cove, he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and you slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. Probably are you looking for shells? Cove startled a little at the sound of your voice and mumbled, sort of. If you see any, you can let me know. You can manage that. You dropped your view to the sand, walking carefully so you didn't step on any. You were good at finding shells. You had a lot of them at home, and always found new ones whenever you visited the beach. The comforting sound of waves filled the silence with pleasant white noise, and you played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close as possible to the water without getting wet. It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in more than a few times. Although Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word. Let's go here. What do you usually do on the beach? Lots of things. I like bodyboarding and volleyball and surfing and everything and stuff. So true. The idea of standing on a big board while the waves propelled you towards the shore was mystifying. I'm not allowed to surf. It looks hard. Not once you get the hang of it. I can show you sometime. But I'm also not supposed to surf right now because I have this. He lifted up one arm, showing off his glaring pink cast wrapped around his wrist. Yeah. It's sad for him. Cove still smiled, though. You thought his nonchalant attitude towards the injury was pretty brave. I also like collecting stuff that's on the shore. Shells, sand dollars. I found a shark tooth once. You did? Cove stretched out his forefinger and thumb. It was this long. That was somehow both scary and delightful. No way! I mean it. I still have it under my bed. You'd have to remember to ask him to show it to you sometime. What about you? What do you do out here? Let's see. Truthfully, probably that. They don't like me, so they always swim away if I get close, but they're pretty before that. Cool, starfish are fun. They aren't going anywhere, even if you touch them. A small laugh escaped you. That's true. Once you reached the shopping area, the noise level grew exponentially. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying the lovely summer day. The call of birds trying to find bits of food left behind. Lots of salespeople trying to get attention. You sniffed the air as you walked beside Cove. You could still smell the ocean, but there were other scents now too. Pizza, pretzels, hot donuts. It was nice. The energy surrounding the area seemed to fill you. There was a bounce in your step as you began looking at all the familiar sights. There were so many things to do, you didn't know where to begin. You looked at Cove, hoping he was just as excited as you were. Cove was glancing from one side of the street to the other with a look in his aquamarine eyes that you couldn't quite work out. What's that? Cove pointed to a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with large colorful umbrellas blooming from their middles. You couldn't see past the adults who were blocking the way, but you knew there must be something worth seeing. Without another word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. Feast your eyes on the amazing Alexander. In the center of the crowd was a man with a tall hat and a funny green coat that had 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him with a cloth hanging over it that read The Amazing Alexander in glittery golden script. Why tell people his name if it's already on a sign? Cove hummed with understanding, then turned to walk away just as the amazing Alexander began shuffling a deck of cards. You bit your lip, reluctantly starting to follow after Cove again. You continued looking over your shoulder, however, wanting to see as much as you could before you got too far away. Hey! Not watching where you were going proved a bad idea as you bumped right into Cove. Oh, sorry. Did you want to stay or something? If that's okay. He briefly lifted his arms up off his sides before returning them to place. Could have said so. With that, it began. The magic man pulled one card out of the deck, showing it to the curious onlookers. The 4 of diamonds. Watch closely. You did, squeezing through a few of the adult onlookers to get a better view. Suddenly, the man snapped his fingers and the card just disappeared. Whoa. He's unimpressed. The amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind smile. What's this behind your ear? Tell me. This had to be going somewhere and you needed to find out. He smelled like popcorn and candy when he stepped in closer. It was great. You felt the tug, and then he pulled the 4 of diamonds out from behind your ear. Whoa. You knew that it couldn't really have come from your ear, but still didn't get how he'd done it. There was a light applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. The magician plucked a pair of balloons from a clump of them tied down to his table. Both were in the shape of a dolphin instead of being a normal circle. And one for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. Wow. Now you're really grateful he chose you. After that, he went to someone else in the crowd. Pick a card, any card. My uncle does that every time he visits. Not the balloons, the stuff with the cards. Cove spoke plainly while reaching over to take the dolphin that had been designated for him. At least you had a fun time. You saw a magic trick and you got a great balloon. That was more than enough to make it a worthwhile event. You thought that if you could find a card to practice with, maybe you could make it disappear too. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed To the side, there was a whole rack of brightly colored kaleidoscopes on display. I loved a kaleidoscope when I was a kid. Hell yeah. Oh. You shifted your balloon string to your other hand so you could bring the mysterious tunnel to your eye. The whole palette of colors appeared right in front of you, spinning into all kinds of different shapes as you twisted the end of the tube. Cove picked one up and looked through it, twisting the tube at the end. After a second, he set it back on the rack, moving to the other side of the stall. He went under the awning, careful of his own floating dolphin, and you joined him. You have places like this in your old town? Let's not bring up the old town because I know he's still sensitive about it. Are you having fun? He nodded, and he smiled back at him, happy to hear it. When Cove moved towards some stalls nearby, you followed beside him. Oh my god, look at these little crab guys. While Cove looked at the sand pails, you were drawn to the table with colorful keychains laid out on it. They were sewn in the shape of sea creatures, and there was a plaque that read "Handmade" standing proudly in front. There were lots of different types. You saw a dolphin, a shark, a crab, a turtle. I picked up the crab. Your hand stopped on the crab, claws raised and a tiny smile on its face. It had big eyes and little legs, and the fabric was smooth when you picked it up. You had seen a few crabs at the beach before, though they usually scuttled away before you could get the chance to look at them closely. You liked the idea of having a crab all of your own, even if it was just a soft animal. You were instantly enamored. This sounds so true. Checking the price though, your heart fell. $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought that was a lot to spend on one thing. You rarely had more than a $5 bill to your name. Though that changed the day you met Cove and his dad. You still had the $20 bill Mr. Holden gave you hidden away in your room. Would have been helpful to bring it with you today, ma'am. It was a grand sum of money, but you couldn't spend something that was at home instead of in your pocket. Maybe you'd have to ask your moms to bring you here again one day, now that you knew what you wanted. Is that what you want? Huh? Oh. It's $6. I didn't bring any money. It's fine. Realistically, I would say this. You don't have to. Cove didn't mind that. He took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He was holding a small yellow bucket for himself, too. I was always going to get you something. I already got the money for it. You were a little nervous, but happy with your purchase nonetheless. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you, too. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out of the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around the air. You watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly. Hey, Cove? Yeah? We'll say thanks. It's alright. It wasn't clear if he really knew how much you appreciated it. What? You were going to thank him for the keychain, but instead you just shook your head, smiling. Cove raised an eyebrow, but didn't push the issue. Cove looked further down the street where different food carts were lined up. He rested his non-cast arm over his stomach, and just as he did, yours let out a light growl. You hadn't eaten anything since breakfast. After all this wandering around, you were definitely ready for some lunch. Let's get some food. Yeah. You two wandered around a short while, looking at the delicacies that were available. Everything looked delicious, and as the different smells, both sweet and salty, wafted over to you, your stomach growled even louder. After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream, and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. Hell yeah. Cove got something sweet and cinnamony, and you... Chocolate. We're gonna get the one with cheese, obviously. Duh. You licked your lips hungrily as the vendor handed your pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. I'd like a garlic parm one when we went to Florida to see Dustin's dad. Oh my god. It was so good. It was like a little standalone pretzel place. It was so good. Was covered in gooey melted cheese, just the way you liked it. Seemed odd to get dessert pretzel before eating normal food. You found an empty table, close enough to the beach that the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you dragged the chairs out to sit down. These balloons are going to make it hard to eat. Cove placed his bucket on the table and stared at his still balled up hand that was wrapped around the string. You opened your mouth to agree before an idea hit you. I know. After carefully placing your pretzel somewhere it wouldn't get sandy, you tugged the balloon dolphin out of Cove's hand and tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist. Oh. Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of your knot. After watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he smiled satisfied. Could you help me too? I can't tie it to my own wrist. He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast restricting his fingers on one hand and a string already tangled around the other. Got it. The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork, both hands now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. You bit into the doughy treat, savoring the taste on your tongue with a smile as you looked out over the ocean. After a time you finished your pretzel. You were done before Cove. It was boring not having anything to do. Look at your keychain. It's great. You pulled on the string of your own balloon to bring it down to your level. Then you held the dolphin in your hands, manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. You turned to face towards the beach. It almost looks like it was swimming in the waves like a real dolphin. A laugh came from your side. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining part of his pretzel in the wrapper and he was gripping his dolphin too. Merryweather. Mine's name is Cherry. She's actually an alien. When no one is looking, she transforms back into her true alien self. She has purple skin and 10 eyes. You sighed, wishing you could meet a real-life alien. What's yours? Cove considered this question, placing the balloon against the table, resting his free arm across it in contemplation. Oh no! With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons. Oh no. That's what I said. For a second, all Cove did was gape in shock, like you. Then his cheeks puffed up, squinting his eyes, and you saw tears start to glisten. Mandy, I would give him my balloon. You looked at Cove, then up to your balloon, bobbing gently in the air above you. You can have mine. That was better than letting him cry more. Cove sniffled, glancing up at the balloon, then back at you. No, it's yours. I don't want to take it from you. It's okay, really. Cove shook his head. Even though it wasn't your fault, you felt bad. Still, the offer seemed to lift Cove's spirits, and that was good. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. In the end, the two of you headed back late that afternoon. You separated on the beach, and while Cove went straight to his home with his brand new sand pail in hand, you decided to sit for a while. You watched the waves and the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. Been a good one, except for the sad final note. That was nice. I mean, not the balloon popping, but everything else was nice. Okay, grown up. These were at least a little bit longer than I was expecting. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sounds of the birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the rug on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped him off earlier, and your moms had left the two of you, along with Lizzie, to play amongst yourselves. It had been too hot to go outside in the afternoon, at least according to Mommy, so your sister was starting to get impatient waiting for her golf class that evening. The three of you had trouble finding something fun to do. The beach and the playground were off limits, and you felt that it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. Then suddenly a light came to Lizzie's big brown eyes, and her smile spread wide across her face. Having an idea gave her a new wave of energy. Not me almost dropping my water bottle. Not good. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. They don't play outdoors anyways. They're always inside and telling everybody they're too busy to play. So true. Why? I said why, and it'll be fun. Duh. What do they do inside that we don't? Besides use the phone a lot. Okay. Excluding us. Oh yeah. Excluding a small huff, Lizzie decides to ignore Cove. What do you think? Do you want to? I'll just say I don't know, because I don't know. Please, Mandy, when have I ever had a bad idea? Whenever we play with you. I wasn't asking you. We'll just say, okay, I'll stay. I hope this is as fun as you're promising it'll be. Lizzie looked at you, deadly serious. It's the most exciting idea I've had all week. Satisfied that neither of you were about to bail on her, Lizzie thought over her options while you watched. After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together and beamed, apparently having settled on something without asking either of you. Okay, I'm gonna be a professional golfer. Mandy, you and Cove can be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. And we have to play sports as adults? Yep. But there's other kind of sports too. It isn't the same. What do you think, Mandy? Don't those choices sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? Honestly, I would say that. Lizzie stomped her foot on the ground. Oh, and it was in it. Isn't there anything else we could be? Lizzie stomped a foot on the ground. Nope. Come on, just decide already. Knowing Lizzie wouldn't let this go anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Lizzie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it for now. You thought over the list of possibilities: beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis. Out of all of them, you'd prefer to play this one. But he likes volleyball. So we could pick tennis, and then he could pick beach volleyball. We'll pick that. If you couldn't spend the afternoon at the beach for real, then you might as well pretend you were there. You could even wear your swimsuit to make it seem more realistic. Although Lizzie probably wouldn't let you run off and do that now that she had you here. Yes, that was clearly the top option. I guess I'll be a volleyball player. Alright. How about you, Cove? I'll have a volleyball team too. Lizzie threw her hands in the air, making an annoyed sound. Oh no. Okay. You guys can't be the same thing. That's not how it works. You didn't say that. The rule was picking from the list. You can't keep adding more. Lizzie looked at the two of you and shook her head, resigned to losing this battle, but not the war. Fine, you're both volleyball players, but you're on the same team because there's only one. Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms wide. The Olympic team! What? We're Olympic athletes who just competed in the Olympics. Cove didn't seem all that impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted the glasses on his nose. That's really specific. Ugh, that's what makes it fun, anyway. Lizzie marched back and forth in front of the both of you, getting lost in her own imagination. I won all gold medals, and people were calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned on him, her brown eyes shining with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is. It's a golf thing. You guys won medals too. Your team placed at silver. It's more real if we're not all first place. But you know she gotta be. She gotta be first place. I would say silver's not bad. Nice. May not be first place, but you knew that silver medals were still really good to get at the Olympics. But it isn't gold. Sorry. Lots of people lose at the Olympics. Them's the breaks. Then you're the one who did, not me. Lizzie looked taken aback by Cove's declaration. as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way, it wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took a golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit an invisible ball. So what kind of house do you want to live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he'd lived as an adult appealed to him, apparently, as he looked back at Lizzie with some of the anger fading. Are we doing MASH right now? Like without the paper? I'm going to live on the beach. Lizzie made a face at him, poking out her tongue. That's kind of boring. We already have that. Okay. Judgy. No, not like the normal houses here with a street. On it, right on the sand, by the water. Just like that, all the tension was back. You hadn't even had a chance to choose where you wanted to live. That's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on a bunch of sand and shells. But I want to, and I will. Cove narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood half a head taller than him. You didn't give out a list of things to pick from this time, so I'm picking that. Why are we even playing pretend if you can't imagine anything? Ugh, well, I'm gonna live in a mansion, far away from here, far away from you. One with an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golf. How come you were yelling at mine when your idea is even more impossible? Lizzie's face flushed red, her hands balling into fists at her sides. It's not impossible. It's better than yours. Disagreements always seemed to crop up when the two of them were together, and always made you feel like you were stuck in the middle. But when it came to the topic at hand, this time you thought, being on the beach is cooler. I'm so sorry. Who wouldn't want to live on the beach? It'd be really great. You could have windows made from driftwood and seashell wind chimes. Ugh. He smiled slightly over the agreement, then turned to Lizzie with bolstered confidence. You can swim whenever you want if you live on the beach. We can still swim anytime we want from where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything, says you. The two of them scowled at each other. You're being so unreasonable. You. I don't get what you want. This game doesn't make sense. It does. You just have to be realistic. I said that. But you're not. You had no idea what to do to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you said so far had kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a greeting card angel, Mom walked into the room. Lizzie rushed over to her, hanging on the hem of her shirt and poking her tongue out at Cove. Lizzie, Mandy, it's time to get ready to go. Sorry you have to leave already, Cove. Their mommy said she'll walk you home so you won't be left in the cold. Cove was still glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed red with anger. I can go myself, but... Bye, Mandy. Oh, no. There was still a harsh edge to the brief farewell, but you knew it wasn't you he was mad at. Without giving Mom a chance to stop him, Cove stood up and stalked out of the room with shoulders drawn tight. Okay. Worried, Mom turned to look down at you and Lizzie. You two were playing nice with our new friend, weren't you? They were fighting, Cove and Lizzie, for the whole time. Your sister jaw dropped, looking betrayed. Listen, you were the one being a little snot. What do you want from me? You could do whatever you want, but you were having a tantrum about us doing whatever we wanted. Your sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed, as Mom put both hands on her hips. Elizabeth. I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up, replaced by a tiny frown. I know, I tried, but he was... No buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. Lizzie hung her head, dragging a foot across the ground in front of her. Okay, Mom. Good girl. You caught pieces of Lizzie skulking to herself about how it was his fault too, but it was over. Alright, we better get a move on. Let's go, kids. Nolani, where did you leave the car keys? Okay. Mom hustled you all out the door, and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. She was usually the first one to request which music to listen to in the car, but she didn't say a thing. Your parents noticed she wasn't in a mood to be bothered. They gave her space, and Mommy just asked what you'd like to listen to. Probably that. You were happy to see it brightened her up right away. She started singing along with you. Soon enough, her bad mood was a thing of the past. When the car ride was over, you spent the twilight hour watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age. You didn't know much about golf, but you could tell she really liked it. So you sat with your moms and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting outside. Oh, did I miss something? Nope, okay. It was nice sitting outside after being cooped up in the house all day, and you stretched out your legs to let the last few minutes of the sun warm your skin. When the sun was finally out of sight, dipping behind the horizon, you all got ready to leave. Instead of going straight home, your moms took the family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had all been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon had been a bunch of shouting. You hadn't been able to stop, but you could kind of tell that this all helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, with only the radio providing escape from silence. Lizzie had been in better spirits now, but the closer you got to your neighborhood, the more she wiggled in her seat and frowned out the window. She knew what was coming when you all got back home. Clearly, she was dreading it. Soon enough, Mom was turning onto your street, then reversing into the driveway. Oh no, you're one of those. You gotta reverse into the driveway. Boo. Dislike. Once she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. Oh. No one spoke. Only unbuckled their seatbelts and opened their doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everyone was inside and done taking off their shoes, she propped her hands on her hips. Now then, Mr. Holden's car is in his driveway, so he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things out before the day's done. Lizzie didn't complain or put up a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes. She nodded once. Good, let's move this to the kitchen. Mom went over to the house phone, the rest of you following behind her. Mommy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. You watched them from the back. This is only happening because you told on Lizzie. Listen, it's time to learn some accountability, child. Uh-oh. I gotta post. Let me see. Probably that one. I hadn't liked doing it, but I had to. Being a tattletale didn't feel good, and you wouldn't want someone else to tell your moms everything you did. Still, your mom had asked you directly, and you wanted to be a liar even less. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze on her feet. You remember the number for Cove's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod, sullen. But without further prompting, she stepped forward and she began to dial. Mom reached over and pressed the button on the base. Suddenly, you could hear the phone ringing. Oh no, not speakerphone. This seems cruel. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple of times, then stopped. Mr. Holden's warm voice came through the other end. Evening, Holden residence. Lizzie looked over at Mommy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. Hi, Mr. Holden. It's, Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove? Lizzie Lee? What a surprise. I love an alliteration. That's great. What a surprise. Both of you can say hey to the boy. Oh, I'm sorry. Both. I guess I combined both of, but of. But of course you can say hi to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, though definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. You thought hard and you were sure that your sister had never called Cove's house before. Mom spoke up before Mr. Holden or Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest, her lips pursed. Hi, Cliff. Nolani, Mandy, and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. I'll say hi too. Hi. Gang's all here, huh? Is something the matter? His voice grew a bit concerned. Mommy was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. Lizzie and Cove got into a bit of a fight today. We were hoping the two of them could talk and make up. Is that a good time? Is this a good time for you and Cove? A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything about that when I came home. Does explain the funk he's been in tonight. He chuckled lightly. Despite that, didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good. You didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him for you. There was some shuffling on the other end. He must not have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. Cove, there's someone on the phone for you. After a beat of silence, there was more muffled talking from Cove's dad. Come on, bud. Lizzie called just so she could talk to you. Mandy's on the other end listening too. Don't you want to say hi? It took a bit of back and forth, though the conversation seemed one-sided, since you couldn't hear Cove properly. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad. Hello? Hey, it's Lizzie. Yeah, I know. Dad told me. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mom, scowling. One stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away. I just called to say I'm sorry for not playing nice with you today. I won't do it again. We'll see. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. She was still being genuine about feeling bad. Cove must have realized that too, because he sighed quietly. I want gold, and I think Mandy should win too. Really? You thought you were worth gold even though you hadn't even wanted it? Lizzie was momentarily stunned silent by the demand. She probably forgot that even happened already. Alright, we all win the gold. Okay, I guess I'm sorry too. Sense of relief washed over everyone at his acceptance of the apology. Mom uncrossed her arms while Mommy's shoulders relaxed. Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. You wondered if she thought he'd refuse her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? Couldn't see him, but it was obvious Cove felt awkward about the situation. He had come off uncomfortable the entire time, really. Yeah, you can go back to your room if you want. Be sure to say goodbye first, though. Bye, Lizzie. Bye. Bye, Mandy. He pricked up at the mention of your name. You smiled, even if he couldn't see it. Bye, Cove. With that said, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left, since Mr. Holden spoke up. All's well that ends well, as they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it. As Mom replied, Lizzie tugged on Mommy's hand to catch her attention. Can I go now, too? Sure, sweetie. Thank you very much for apologizing to Cove. Mom flashed a brief smile at Lizzie and nodded her agreement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried off towards the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better with the incident behind her. Mom and Mommy returned to the phone. Taking it off speaker, they continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what it was about. You were glad that this was the end of it all. Oh no, was it though? Lizzie and Cove might not get along, and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mom and Mommy weren't upset either. Everything was finally back to normal. With that thought, you retreated to your own room with a spring in your step. Okay, so we'll finish up the next 3 in the next one. Thank y'all so much for watching. I had fun. I hope you enjoyed as well, and I will see y'all next time. Bye, gang. Love y'all.